are here. It is Star Trek Sunday time. This is a thing that's happening.
It's here.
It is here. It is here. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be a whole lot of stuff. It's gonna be an adventure. Yeah. So hang on, let me just fix these settings real quick. I think we're all still good. Oh, hi, Adverbia. Thank you for being here. I was trying to record locally, and then it was like, that's funny. No, you're not. You should not try to do that. So we'll see. But as we go, I think we'll be all right.
Should be fine.
Some little housekeeping things. I added a new setting that I checked out. So let me throw this in the chat real quick. You might see the commands under the stream title, but I found an extension where you can add pronouns for the people in the chat. Now, the funny thing is that it does not work for me in my stream manager mode, but for any of you live in the chat, you should be able to add your pronouns and see people's pronouns, and I really like it when I'm watching other streams and stuff. So feel free to check that out. And otherwise, yeah, you can set your pronouns at that first link, and then if you want to see other people's pronouns, you can add the extension to Twitch on Chrome or Firefox. So all of that being said,
very cool.
Yes, it is very, very cool. I was very happy to see that. Okay, are you ready, Samantha?
Yeah.
Are you?
I don't know.
Okay, so for those of you who may be new, particularly Adverbia, if you haven't been here before, we are going through Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Samantha is watching it for the very first time. And we are at the end of season 6, and it's going to be a whole thing.
Not okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. All right, but as we lead into it, we're basically watching the last 7 episodes of season 6. So these are going to include His Way. It's going to include The Reckoning. We are also going to be talking about Valiant, Prophet and Lace, Time's Orphan, The Sound of Her Voice, and Tears of the Prophets. The end. So brace yourselves, folks. Brace yourselves. Shall we dive right in?
Let's do it.
All right, awesome. So the first one up, we're going to be talking about His Way. So this is the key episode for those of us who are Odo Kira shippers. I know not everyone is, and that's okay. But we've talked about trains. I am possibly the deputy conductor of the train. Samantha's watched it go by on the station a few times. But this is where we get introduced to Vic Fontaine, who's our new Holosuite program, who's essentially a 1960s Las Vegas lounge singer. And he basically is programmed with the awareness that he's a hologram, and like me, is trying to ship Odo and Kira like nobody's business, and plays around with them. And it's fairly Shakespearean in my opinion, but I'm so curious, Samantha, what you thought of this episode.
Well, firstly, yes, totally agree. Kind of had that 12th Night-esque comedy of errors stuff going on at the end when he thinks he's dancing with a hologram, but it's really Kira, which is also fun, like 90s rom-com stuff, which based on lots of them based on Shakespeare. So there you go. But no, when this cold open started, like it was such a breath of fresh air. At first I was like, did I click the right the right show?
When it opens with Vic Fontaine.
Yeah. And I mean, that's like totally my kind of music. Like that's my era. So I was like, this is great. I love this.
Awesome.
And I totally loved him too.
Oh, good. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. I was glad that he came back a couple times.
Yeah.
And we've seen him more than that one episode. Yeah, I mean, this was just a really fun, lighthearted episode.
Bahana put in the chat that Vic Fontaine is the Yoda of Deep Space Nine.
Yoda with like Tony Bennett style everything. So
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's fabulous. Oh, Tolune, thank you for the follow. Yeah, so how did you feel about... Oh yeah, and just to remind people, Samantha's not in the chat, so feel free to spoil away all you want. Yeah, so what was I going to ask? Oh, I was going to ask how you felt about the Odo Kira thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This episode got me a little closer to buying a ticket.
Okay,
to the train.
That's good. That's good.
Gotta say.
You're welcome at any time.
Right. I think, yeah, this one made me see Odo very differently, of course.
Really?
Yeah, just the fact that he takes that step and, I don't know. I just saw him a little more relatable, I guess.
Okay.
For me. And I felt like it was a natural progression of that storyline. And I was like, okay, I can see them together as a actual couple, whereas before I just didn't click, didn't really make sense to me. So
well, I think too, it's like we get to see him being vulnerable and scared and like probably more human, like just more genuinely human than we've got to see him before, in my opinion.
Yeah, something along those lines. But I loved the old retro style. I guess I liked the episode because we got to spend a lot of time in that environment in the holodeck.
Good. That's awesome. I'm really glad that you enjoyed Vic Fontaine. I think it's like like Voyager had that with, Chez Sandrine was like sort of the first few seasons, and then they had our favorite place, Fairhaven. And like their various places that they could go to escape. So I'm glad they gave that to Deep Space Nine, that they had a escape.
Yeah, and this just struck me just now, but I complained a little bit in the beginning of DS9 that it's not very much a holodecky type of series.
Yeah.
And I was really missing holodeck episodes. So I think this was like, this satiated that for me.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's really, really good. It's very sweet. As much as I love it, it does bring up an interesting question though of consent. And it's like we said, it's very Shakespearean, right? So this is a tried and true sort of romance trope of like, he doesn't know that she's not a hologram, so his defenses are down and he thinks that he's playing along. She doesn't know that he thinks she's a hologram, so she's like fully invested in this date with Odo, and it's a little bit puppetry.
Yeah.
It makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but
yeah, there were a few moments of that for me in this one, but there's definitely been other episodes in all the series we've watched so far that are way more cringy. This one was definitely more on the Shakespearean side of like the comedy of errors side, that I was like, oh, it's cute,
Okay, good.
But yeah, I definitely there were a couple moments where it could have gotten really bad, and they pulled it back.
Good. Okay, I'm glad you feel that way. Just to say hi to people in the chat, we have Professor Noor Muhammad. Hi. Christoph's here. Baka's here. Kuro's here. G Mandela's here. Hi everyone. Okay. Any other thoughts on this one?
Not really. I love him.
Good. I'm so glad you love him. I figured you would, but just knowing you. But I'm glad that
not too far of a stretch.
It wasn't too out of left field. Ooh, yes, hydrate. This is actually tea, so
coffee. It's all good.
Oh, hey, Andy. Okay, the next episode is The Reckoning. So we are in full Bajoran religion here. So this is where they discover an ancient tablet that essentially addresses the emissary directly. So remember, they found that like ancient city, and then they found like a more ancient city underneath that. And that's where they found this tablet, and they basically unleash this battle between the prophets and the Pa-wraiths. So as I put into my thing, the Pa-wraiths have entered the chat.
Yep. You warned me we were going to see them again.
I did. I think we saw them. It was like what? It was an offhand episode, I think, with Gold Dukat.
Keiko.
Or Keiko, that was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Where they came and possessed her. That's
yeah.
Right.
And you're like, they're not going to go away.
Yes,
it's like, damn it.
But they are here now. And that's
here.
the thing that's happened. So, yeah, this is a really interesting episode, actually, rewatching it.
It is. It is. I think I mentioned a couple times that like normally I start watching the episodes around like Wednesday so that I just remember stuff. The last two or 3 weeks, I've watched like 3 or 5 on Sunday, like after this.
Awesome.
So I literally had to rewatch most of these like yesterday. But and this was one of the ones I rewatched like most of it. And I mean, this is a great Kai Wynn episode. Like
it's a great Kai Wynn
great
episode.
One. Mostly because I kind of agreed with her most of the time.
That. Yeah.
And I was like, why is she making sense? Like, what's happening here? So there was that.
So what were the things that stood out that made sense, like that you kind of were I get it.
It sort of started in the beginning when she comes on the station and she's like, why did you take this religious artifact to the station without consulting anybody?
No, well, yes, she says that, but she says that in the most master of passive aggression way, where it's like she literally steps off the shuttle and she's just like, I thought that Commander Sisko would be here to meet me, seeing as how he felt the need to like take the tablet without consulting any Bajoran like, religious leader, like just dripping.
Of course. I mean, that's her thing. But at the same time, I thought he met her and she asked him when there's another moment when she says, I thought that Sisko would take me.
You're right. When she's leaving, she says I would have thought that Sisko would
thank me
here, but
and that's the whole other side of like, I thought he would thank me for doing this other thing, which we have to talk about.
Right.
But in the beginning, I was sort of like, that's a reasonable thing to ask. I mean, like Sisko's sort of taken a lot of into his own hands as this, so I was like, I think she has a point. And then like,
I mean, he pulls the emissary card through the entire episode. He's like, I'm
the
emissary, so I took it. And then he
and you alluded to this in your notes as well. Like there were moments throughout this episode where I honestly felt like Kai Wynn is honestly hurt or honestly jealous or honestly just feeling unsure of herself, of why the prophets aren't talking to her.
Yes.
And that is so interesting as a facet of her character.
I love that. And that's where, I mean, at this rate, we're probably looking at like 6 weeks to finishing Deep Space Nine at the most. And I mean, I swear, after we finish it, I really want to do a full brunch chat about Kai Wynn, because it's like, these are those layers that I find fascinating. And I'm glad you picked up on that, because I really feel like that is so core to who she is, that she feels this jealousy, this like deep jealousy, and she throws it in here in, again, her very Kai Wynn way of like, well, I wouldn't know because they've never talked to me, but she says it just enough that you know that it's really bothering her.
It really bothers her. Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, you've been
fragrance free.
Yeah, you've mentioned that from day one, and like this was, I think, probably the clincher episode for me of like, I really see a lot. Awesome. I saw a lot more layers here than I have before. So
yay.
Very excited for that.
I'm so excited.
And then like, okay, so there's probably other stuff that happens before this that we'll talk about, but there's this great moment when they're evacuating and Dax goes, the shuttle bay's down there to the right. And Kai Wynn just walks and goes to the left. I was like, oh, what's she doing? She went the wrong way.
Literally took a hard left. Kai Wynn was like, all right.
Nope.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so great. Yeah. So then let's talk about how she ends it, right? So she comes in, again, very reasonable, right? That she's like, hey, dude, like you literally just took this like super ancient, older than anything we've ever found artifact off of Bajor without asking anyone. And then he goes on and destroys it. Like, he smashes it. And she's like, the heck? And yeah, how do you think about how she ended it?
How she ended?
Well, like, with the fighting the Pa Wraiths, and like, essentially, you know, she takes credit. Sorry, yeah. So it's like, ultimately she takes credit for concluding the whole situation.
Well, I mean, this was so interesting, right? So I think it's Dax that comes up with the solution where they can flood the air with something that's gonna expel the
radiation. Yeah,
the chronoton radiation. That will like save Kira and Jake. And at first she's like, you can't do that. They're I think it's right before they possess them, or right after, or something. Like, there's a moment when she's on the side of, you know, we can't do that. That's not with the will of the prophets, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going. And like, Dax is trying to convince Sisko to do the thing. He's like, we can't. They're not going to hurt Jake.
Right.
And then Dax is like, we have to evacuate now. Takes Kai Wynn, because Sisko's like, I'm going to stay here. And Kai Wynn does the thing. And I was just like, what? Why? Like, other than taking credit for it, I guess, but taking credit for what?
Think, like, yeah, so they were trying to purge basically the Pa Wraiths, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like, they had come in and they were
purge the evil.
Them. Yeah. I think that not only is Kai Wynn seeing the opportunity to like be the hero, but I wonder too, because this is all wrapped in her not being spoken to by the prophets, that maybe she was like, hey, if I banish the bad guys, like, maybe the prophets will actually recognize me.
Yeah, but she's not banishing. She's basically freeing it to be around and possess somebody else in the future.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So my main thought was that she did it. Well, see, this is where Kai Wynn is brilliant. Like, at first I was like, she just saved Jake's life.
Right.
And she did it because that was the right thing to do. But then that probably isn't the case. You know, but you don't know. I mean, she has so many layers. But mostly Kira spelled it out at the end when she was like, you're going to take credit for, you know, for everything that's happened.
For everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, Baka said, or rather, she sees this as her way to exert power on the prophets. They don't talk to her, so she feels anger and powerlessness towards them. Excellent point. Magic Head said, I thought it was because she didn't have faith the prophets would win. Oh, that's an interesting take. I like that one.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And I think that's sort of, I mean, we'll come back to a lot of that in the next season, which is, I'm so excited. Okay, cool. Any other thoughts on this one? I think it's so my little like B plot with this before it gets fully taken over by the Bajoran tablet and everything. That I love the opening where Kira and Odo are like trying to play it cool at work, and she's like, why are you so grumpy? He's like, they all think I'm supposed to be grumpy. And it's like, so I have to keep playing this. And I don't know, as someone who, like, you know, Aaron, my current partner, and we met at work and we kept it under wraps for a long time. And I deeply, deeply felt those scenes. And I also really liked Kira's question to Dax, where she asks about the moment of clarity at in the opening, right before they kiss publicly, like in front of everyone. I think that was at the opening of this one, right?
I think so, yeah.
It's like the cold open to be like, yeah, we're picking up where we left off. And Jadzia, you know, she's like, yeah, I've had maybe 2 of those moments my entire life. And then Kira's like, yeah, but I feel like I had one. And I get that. And I think and I feel like I've had one in my life. And so I think if you have, that really resonates. And that was really, really good.
That's awesome.
Good writing. Yeah. Bad Panda Bear said, if I remember correctly, she was also jealous that Sisko did have faith in the prophets enough to risk his own son, whereas she knew she didn't. Ooh, I
Right.
like that. I like that.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also Cisco, I just, I don't know.
Ooh,
What's he doing?
nice. We've got a lot.
Uh,
Oh, there's so much.
mm,
Also, hi Q, welcome. Um, give a
yeah. And I guess my one other thing in this episode was Dax being like super annoyed at having to translate the tablet and like making all these sarcastic remarks and
Oh
side
yeah,
eye to
that was
Cisco. I
great.
was like, I felt that. I am on
That was
your
really good.
side, Dax.
She's just like, God dang it. Like,
Just
yeah,
like, oh my God.
this sucks.
Yeah.
um,
And she just like, let me guess, the prophets told you to break it or something.
yeah, exactly. She's like, I
Oh,
mean, I don't disagree with breaking it because I was about to do the same thing, but
mm-hmm.
I didn't have the
But you
excuse
just
that you
like
do.
destroyed all the work I did for you in the past 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, oh
Oh, so
God.
funny. Yeah, she's really, really good in this one. She's really good in this one.
She's so good.
All right, we have to move on
I
to
know.
the next episode, which is Valiant. Oh, this is another great episode. So this is where Nog and Jake are essentially like going on a mission. I think they have to drop something off at the Grand Negus, and Jake wants to get an interview with him, but promised Nog that he wouldn't be a journalist in this, and so they're all like just being snipey best friends. And they end up under attack by the Jem'Hadar. And then what looks like the Defiant shows up, and they're like, the Defiant's here. And then they're like, oh, it's not the Defiant, it's the Valiant. And they find out that it's a group of plucky kids whose captain has died on a mission. And instead, this is the Red Squad. And instead of going home like they should have, they were like, well, here's our chance to carry on the mission. And they basically cosplay officers. And it's very, very stressful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very stressful.
I didn't like them.
I think they're great. Like, they,
Really?
well, like, in the sense that they play the roles very well.
Mm-hmm.
Every series, like in the 80s and 90s era, right? TNG, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine have all had very good episodes of like the lower deck cadet episodes. And this, I think, is like up there in some of the best. And yes, Q, my main gripe with this is Nog is literally an officer. And if they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, all those cadets should have been like, officer on deck, he's in charge, Nogs makes the decisions. And this episode stresses me out. So
Yeah.
what did you think?
I don't know. It just they more annoyed me than were interesting, I thought, I guess. Like in that Little Rascals kind of way. It's like that's the first thing that came to mind. I was like, why am I watching kids fly a spaceship? Like
I know.
and just like you're right, like acting like officers. It just didn't. And I guess, I mean, the interesting part was they're so young that it seems like they don't fully recognize all the shades of gray that come with leadership and with being a team on a starship. They're more just like, this is what we do, this is how we do it, like Nog was and is, with the rules and
this is their opportunity to like shortcut the system and play commander.
Sure.
And yeah, I think that's what's so hard. And the great part is, it's like you can feel Nog's, torn loyalties in this circumstance.
Yes.
That like, he's like, oh my God, what do I do? But then, relatably, knowing Nog, once they assign him lieutenant commander rank, he like fully plays into it because he gets to be lieutenant commander, which is like what they all want to do. He's an ensign right now. So yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, his little arc in this episode was brilliant, that he does lean into that because I mean it's a rank, he's doing what he's always wanted to do. They all are, in a sense. But the way they just talk down to Jake and like, because he's not in Starfleet. Like, I knew that was going to come back at some point in a big way, and this was like, they're like, throw him in the brig because he's in the way, and I'm like, this is just not okay.
And the poor girl who's like the chief engineer, you know, she's being nice to Jake. He's asking her about home, and it unleashes, as I think is relatable to a lot of people, especially if you've struggled with depression in the past, like, or struggle with depression at all. You compartmentalize so much, and then as soon as someone starts asking things, it like opens the floodgates, and you can end up weeping in the middle of a coffee shop, which has happened maybe once or twice, but like, you know, because you've compartmentalized it. But once someone like gives you that opportunity to talk about it, then it all kind of comes flooding out. And that was their impetus for like punishing Jake, was because he was nice to her, seeing that she missed home, asking her about home, and then she kind of, that took over. And it was really relatable, but also very frustrating.
Yeah. So I guess there was just a lot of things that needled me about this. And also, like, do they ever come back to like the medication or whatever the captain guy was taking?
So there is like, so he's taking at one point, and then I think near the end of the episode there is a confrontation with him, like when they kind of, it comes all to a head. Like I think one of them calls him out on being like, hey, you've been hyped up on these things for like days, and you're not in a place where you can do this. But that's really all it came to.
Okay. It just seemed like it was going to be a bigger thing than...
I think it's just more the fact, I mean, remember though, this was like the 90s where there was a lot of that, you know, kids getting hopped up on, you know, Ritalin.
Like,
I think that's right. That cautionary after school tale of that.
Don't do.
Yeah. Don't OD on that.
Right.
A question I did have, and Q in the chat kind of leaned into that a little bit. I just felt like when they get to the ship, right, and Nog is like, oh, this is the Red Squad, let me tell you about them. And he's like, these are the elite cadets. They're given their own quarters. They're given their own missions. They get to go out on training things. I was like, damn, like that seems weird for Starfleet Academy to play that blatant favoritism towards a group of cadets.
Well, I agree. My only thought that would make that okay would be like if they applied to be in Red Squad, or they're just selected.
Yeah, like, that's true. That's a good point.
And isn't Red Squad the same? Like, doesn't Nog bring that up before when they're on Earth?
Yeah, when he first is talking about being at Starfleet. Yeah, he wants to be in Red Squad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, I agree that seems very favoritism focused, but at the same time, you know, if it was an application based thing, I'd be way more okay with it. Yeah. But and also like all of the people we've seen in Voyager and Next Gen and probably would have been Red Squad people, like Janeway and Picard and Riker and like everybody, you know, because they've gotten to where they are and they're pretty awesome. And you know, there's something very special about them. So I don't know.
It's interesting. Bahana asked if Wesley Crusher was the Red Squad that they got into that accident. I think it was like the same concept. I don't think it was called the same, but pretty much the same. And then there's a bunch of discussion in the chat. Peace Demish and a few. Oh yeah, Q, thanks. That was Nova Squadron. Yeah, and Peace Demish got that too. I love the chat brain. Thanks, Andy. But Peace Demish also was like, maybe Red Squad is a Section 31 recruitment pipeline. Right?
That's you don't know.
I mean, they were certainly trained to act unilaterally. That's we can't argue with that. Yeah, good times. Oh, hi Sky. Okay, so it's, you know, you wrote down the quote that I think is perfect at the end. You want to share that one?
Yeah, that was such a great quote. I love that Nog said it too, that he may have been a hero, he may even have been a good man, but in the end, he was a bad captain. I think that says so much about leadership and when people are in positions of power that can play with their brains.
Yeah. Yep. You know? I think we've talked about that a lot, particularly with how it's like the admirals are all dicks.
Yep.
But that there's a certain personality that wants to continue on and become an admiral. And yeah, so it is really interesting. Yeah, Bad Panda Bear asked a good question. We have to move on shortly, but on a meta level, it's weird to me that Deep Space Nine writers made Red Squad solely to be a terrible idea. It's like how they tried to add conflict within the perfect Starfleet. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
It's just
show those cracks a little bit.
It's very, very stressful to me as lawfully aligned.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on. Oh, Jesus. So the next episode is Prophet and Lace. This is an interesting one. This is frequently discussed as one of the worst Deep Space Nine episodes of all time. It has not aged well. However, like Threshold, and I'm not giving it a pass, but I want to clarify, like Threshold, going back and rewatching it purely just like from the beginning, it's not as bad as I remember, because in my mind, I picture the Quark as a female being the bulk of the episode, and it's really just the third act. Like, it really is just at the end. And so anyway, this is where the Grand Nagus is essentially like they're trying to bring in equal rights for Ferengi females. There's some conflict in Ferenginar, and the Grand Nagus and Mugi are trying to justify this with, and I didn't write down the name of the certain board member who will pass it or not. But then Mugi ends up ill, and they need another woman who can justify that Ferengi women are competent, but they don't have any, which is probably my biggest gripe in the episode. And so Quark dresses up as a female. I mean, doesn't even dress up, fully becomes a female Ferengi. And yeah, what do you think of Prophet and Lace?
I also had some trouble with it. I mean, I think I'd have more trouble with repeat viewings. Honestly, like first watching it, I was sort of just laughing at Quark being a dumbass and having to, you know, fighting with Mugi, and then ultimately having to be the one to, you know, help move this through. It's like, Quark, you get yourself in these situations where you have to, you know, do ridiculous things to save the day. But then it just kind of kept going and going and going. That whole scene, like back in his quarters, I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
And it just went a little too far there I was like, okay, stop. Like, what? So there was that. I mean, I thought some of the humor was great. I mean, particularly with Rom. But you have some great notes on our doc about like enforcing very much male-female stereotypes, and I definitely picked up on that. And it was like, there's no gradation here of like there's no gray area.
Yeah, it reinforces that it's like that toxic masculinity type thing of just women are emotional and vulnerable and men aren't and will never be. And it's, exactly. I mean, it is very 90s, and, you know, remembering to not because this is okay. And I'm trying to look this up right now. There was a lot of media around this time that had these themes that were ranging from the Ace Ventura films to, you know, Crying Game was like a big, and I'm sorry if this is triggering for anyone because it's like not great to watch. I'm trying to, oh, that's it. I was looking for the documentary, Disclosure on Netflix. I highly recommend everyone watch because it touches on the 90s and how they dealt with transgender characters. And the 90s was like the peak of trying to address it, but in a completely insensitive way. Is like there's so many nuances to it that it would be a whole podcast to actually just like talk about disclosure, but it's a great documentary and I highly recommend it.
Awesome.
But we had the crying game, we had like all the comedy aspects that take on these tropes, and then I mean, we brought this up in one of my Mass Effect streams. We were talking about Futurama and like episodes that didn't age well, and the one that like came up the most for people was Bend Her, where it's basically this exact same episode where Bender gets turned into a female robot. Like it is exactly Prophet and Lace, but in Futurama. And it's like now that I've been a woman, I feel emotions and I can be sympathetic, and it's just that men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and it just doesn't age well these days, thankfully, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I mean, you said though, like I said, and sorry for kind of dominating the chat with that, but it wasn't as bad as I remembered because it all was shoved into the third act. And for me, like when I think about that episode, I picture it like taking up it just being fully cringe the whole time, and it's not.
Right. Yeah, but that third act just kind of does stick in your head. A little. So yeah. Probably not my favorite Ferengi episode, but I like any episode where Moogie is involved.
Fair enough. And Moogie is fabulous in this one. She's really good. And it is funny. I think probably my favorite scene is where where Quark and her get into the fight, like the fight, and then she collapses. And like the next scene is him like in the infirmary being like, I don't know, nothing. Wait, nothing serious. And they were like, did you say anything to upset her? And he's like, no. And then Bashir comes in and he's like, he's not allowed anywhere near her. And it's like, she's woken up, but all she's saying is, it's all Quark's fault.
It's all
That made me laugh.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Okay, flying through, because we still have a few to get to, and I want to give a bunch of time for the finale. Times Orphan is the next one, and this is where Molly O'Brien, as a kid, falls into an alien time portal while they're off on a picnic together, and basically comes out 10 years older as a 18-year-old who has not interacted with anyone in 10 years. And what do you think of this one? This stands out, I think.
It does. And I mean, this grouping of episodes they were all very like not weird. They were just like very different stories than we've seen, like packed together and when because we watch these like 6 or 7 at a time, you always kind of think of them in those groupings. And this was just like a bunch of one-off crazy episodes. And this was definitely one of those. But I really liked it. I thought it was fun to focus on the O'Briens. I always like when we get more of them together. And it was kind of, it was so sad that they lost these, 10 years of her life and have to like bring her back into their fold. And she gets there, but then they have to come up to this ultimate solution because she's just not going to adapt the way that they need her, the way that she needs to. And I was really surprised that that's where their episode was going to end, was them sending her back. I was like, no, that's so sad.
Yeah. Q in the chat said this was almost the Tuvix of Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
Like in the sense of like that moral dilemma of just being like, okay, we're never going to see our kid again.
Yeah. And I thought like maybe they were going to go back with her or something, but no, like the fact that they came to that conclusion together for her good, just there was something special about that, as heartbreaking as it was. Yeah. And I thought that's where it was going to end. Like they weren't going to see her again. But then of course, they send her back to the wrong time, and little Molly O'Brien is still there. And,
there are a few moments where even rewatching, I shout at the television, and it was like just that perfect timing where she's slowly walking the girl back right as O'Brien is about to shut the portal, and I'm like, no, don't do it.
Walk faster.
So good. I really love it. It's really good. Also recommend, and Q mentioned as well, well, Laura said this is the O'Brien Must Suffer Junior edition. This is, so Rosalind Chow, who plays Keiko O'Brien, she doesn't talk much about her time on Deep Space Nine, and I think, Samantha, you and I both agree that she's completely underrated, that we love Keiko O'Brien. Check out her podcast with, from All the Agents on Star Trek. There's a podcast called All the Agents on Star Trek, that is run by the guy who runs the Twitter. I only know him as Angry Asian Man because that's what he's been forever in my brain, and on Twitter and everything. But he runs a podcast called All the Agents on Star Trek, where he tries to interview all the agents that have been on Star Trek. And he's got a really great episode with Rosalind Chow about playing Keiko, and they talk about this episode. They talk about the Pa Wraith episode, and yeah, it's really great. Cool. So anyway, yeah.
No, this was a good episode. And then we also get Worf and Jadzia talking about babies, and Worf with little, I forget his name, but the O'Brien's other baby. Thank you. Yeah. So cute. Oh, my Worfable.
Yeah, the heck doop. And I couldn't find a spelling for that because no one actually translated it from, but it sounds like he says heck doop, which is the hand-eye coordination exercise for Klingon babies, where they go doop, doop, doop. And I just loved the moment in the end when she was like, what does doop, doop, doop mean? And he's like, what? Yoshi was saying that? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, that's between me and him. So cute.
Oh, and the way he's like, they're in bed and he's crying again, and Worf is like, I'm a Klingon warrior. I have battled starships. I have done all of these things. I can do this.
This is definitely time for our Worfable emote in the chat. Because it is very much...
Do we have one?
Yes, we do. Because it's very much Worf at his most Worfy. And
at his most Worfable.
Yes, we love it. Yeah, this is a good one for those of us with dad energy crushes. It's a good dad episode. It's very sweet. And I think I wrote in the chat, I find O'Brien so sexy in this episode.
Nice.
I really do.
Valid.
He's really good. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the sound of her voice. I love this episode. This is where the Deep Space Nine crew on the Defiant, they basically hear a distress signal from a Starfleet officer who's stranded on a planet, an L-class planet somewhere, which has high carbon dioxide. And they are able to establish two-way communication with her while they try to mount a rescue, because she's still a good distance away. It's a few days before they can get to her. And then there's a whole side plot with Quark and Odo that's fabulous as well. But yeah, what do you think of the sound of her voice?
Yeah, by the end, I really liked this episode a lot. It was a super interesting way to get more inside the heads of everybody, things that they wouldn't tell each other. There's something about the disembodied voice thing that kind of doesn't always sit well with me, and I'm like, what's she doing?
Well, and especially to the reveal makes it pretty creepy when you realize she's been dead for 50 years or whatever.
Yes, exactly. And that part too was really frustrating. I was like, I just wanted them to find her. I just wanted to meet this person, and her to meet everybody else, and that was just like, why you gotta Star Trek, but leading up to that, I thought, her conversations with everybody, the way she adapted her communication style for everybody was just really, really sweet and well done. But the fact that she so perfectly did that and was just like this sort of perfect person in a way, I was suspicious. I was like, what is
Deep Space Nine has taught Samantha to trust no one.
Yeah, it's like trust no one, especially if it's me type of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
So So even though I was frustrated that she was dead and they couldn't save her, I was relieved that it was not some like, you know, mind bendy whatever something.
I think you brought up a really interesting point that she really did adapt her style and picked up on every single person there individually. Like, you know, the big things is she gets a lot of vulnerability from O'Brien that he hasn't really shown before. She knows when Bashir is like not listening to her, which called great. Out, dude. Yeah. And then she really holds Cisco to the fire about his relationship with Cassidy. And he's like, do you want her to be here? Because you're not acting like you do. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. I like that moment with O'Brien when she was like, you're not going to talk to this person. You're not going to talk to this person. You're not going to talk to this person. So who's left? And he's like, ship's counselor.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah, which frankly O'Brien should be in regular therapy for a long ass time. Just make this very, very, very clear.
Deep psychotherapy
very
for O'Brien.
Clear.
Yeah. So this was a great episode.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking in a good way, like good storytelling way. Both you in your notes and Laura in the chat asked, how does the science work?
So please explain.
Yes. So essentially, and I'm going to try to make this absolutely as simple as possible. They talk about this Metreon radiation, which is made up, but like tachyons, used pretty consistently in Star Trek, and as sort of timey-wimey particles. And there's a lot of Metreon radiation around this planet. And essentially what it just creates is it's almost like when you're in a gravity well, like time is slower for you than for people outside the gravity well. It's just created this like massive subspace distortion where it's like it gets accelerated in one direction and decelerated in the other, so they're able to continue talking to each other. That's the most explanation they give into it, and it's vague enough and yet specific enough that like I buy it. So it kind of works.
Okay. If you buy it,
yeah.
you buy what they're selling, I'll I'll take it. But I just could not wrap my head around the fact that they were having a conversation with her, but she's dead at the same time, and I don't.
Oh, it's timey-wimey hot nonsense, but it's basically that Metreon radiation, what it's doing is it's taking their signal and sending it back through time to her, but she doesn't realize that.
Oh.
And then her signal, as she's sending it out, gets accelerated forward the same amount to them.
Oh,
so it's basically just a slope that, one goes down, one goes up. And, it's timey-wimey nonsense, but like I said, it kind of works actually, in my opinion, and this is the last thing I'll say because I want to get to the last one. I think it makes it worse that she died thinking she would be rescued. Because think about it, like she literally thought she'd be rescued and died. They never came. Sorry. I
didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that I picked up on that like the third time I watched that episode, but yeah, it's horrible. So anyway, Christoph said I'm contractually compromised to comment on science in Star Trek, but that's fine. I'll still, Andy's saying she died with hope. Sadder but not cheap is better. Maybe Baka. Okay, anyway.
Maybe.
Speaking of sad deaths, Tears of the Prophets. So to catch people up on this, about a season ago, Samantha asked me the question when Worf and Jadzia were getting together. I'm curious what happens if Jadzia were to die. What would happen to the Dax symbiont? What would happen to Worf and Jadzia's relationship? And I tried to poke her face as much as possible. And frankly, Samantha, I'm just grateful. I think you said you kind of, and I'll let you talk about it too, but like, we've all been waiting for you to watch this episode. The chat has been on tenterhooks waiting for this to happen.
Well, I'm hoping there's still something coming, but I was definitely expecting this to happen.
Okay.
Like 100%. Not because anyone spoiled it for me. I think I kind of got spoiled when I was scrolling on Twitter once. But I forgot about it. I blocked it out because I didn't want it to happen, but I knew it was going to happen.
Okay.
But I just didn't think it would happen so soon. I was definitely thinking season 7. This was a season 7 type of thing. Obviously, I mean, it's the finale, so it's almost season 7, but so mad.
I'm so sorry.
No, but now I'm like, I'm still wondering what happens with the symbiont with Dax. Like,
yeah,
what's the thing?
Yeah.
No one tell me.
Nope. You've brought in you've asked some good questions too that I think are going to be answered.
Okay.
That I'm excited and very curious for. Everyone is, see you, Kuro. Thanks for hanging. And I think too, you felt a little emotionally prepared for this. At least you thought this was going to happen, because like you said, you thought something like this was going to happen, and then Peacetime-ish was like when they were on that away mission in the last week.
Yep.
You were like,
I thought maybe that would be it.
Yeah.
And then this one, like I thought she was gonna survive it. Like, I mean, they lingered on it pretty long when Ducat's doing the thing.
Oh, Samantha, I'm just grateful everyone has witnessed your journey with Gul Dukat, because it's relatable.
Yes. And now I hate him on a deep personal level because I mean, so they lingered long enough on him, her on fire, that I was like, oh God, this is probably it. But then like she kind of moves on the ground, and I was like, oh, Bashir's gonna save her. Like, and then he doesn't. Yeah. So an emotional roller coaster, to say the least.
Yeah. Umbra says, welcome to the club. Now I hate him on a deep personal level. But Dukat is back. I mean, were you expecting him to come back?
Well, yes, I was. But I realized, like, we haven't seen him since that episode with Cisco, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And
yeah, so it's been a while.
He comes back, and Damar's kind of like, uh-oh. Yeah. And he says right up front, he's like, I don't blame you for her death, for Zial's death. He's in a very, very weird headspace. But yeah, it's he's back.
I know. He's got, I mean, he's going full like Kaiwin soft voice train now, and so I don't know.
I really like it. I just, because you compared him, I think, to Kaiwin like a season ago or something when we last saw him. You were like, man.
Yeah.
And we had in the chat too that it was like you had two people who are like on the opposite sides, but both so blindingly ambitious. It's like bonkers. He has more outbursts than Kaiwin, who I don't think we've seen have. Maybe we've seen her have one outburst. No, she outbursts with passive aggressiveness,
right? But Dukat right now, like the way he was talking, and it's like he's cooking something up other than the Pa Wraith. Like, he's got a long game going, and I don't feel comfortable about that.
Yup. Long game indeed. If people, there's some questions or sort of comments in the chat about like Jadzia and all of those, I just would highly recommend, not saying anything because not to spoil anything for Samantha, but check out the Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind. I think it's available on YouTube now, like the whole thing. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend. I believe Terry Farrell does talk about this. And, oh no, the chat can be spoilery. I'm editing it heavily.
I am not watching.
I put spoiler tags in our section for this because go wild, people. So Gul Dukat's back. We hate him on a personal level. Jadzia appears to have died.
Appears to have died?
Well, I mean, you were just saying, like, I don't know, because it's Star Trek. I'm playing along with you here. You were like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Yes. So I'm just playing along with you, Samantha. I mean, because it's Star Trek. People have come back from the dead, so I'm not trying to.
I was thinking like maybe they can reanimate her somehow with the symbiont. Like maybe that's a thing that happens. Yeah. I don't know.
Before we go on to speculate on what is coming, let's talk about the actual invasion of Cardassia, because like this was a no joke Dominion War moment, and I think it's a pretty good story in its own right, of like the Romulans and the Klingons and the humans all in battle together.
Right. Yeah. This is the moment where wasn't there a great moment with Martok when he's like, I don't know, you go do that and I'll keep going with the, like, Sisko's like, do you need any help? I was like, no, you I don't remember, but it just, that struck out. I love Martok. And yeah, I mean, the whole preparation of in the war room when they're the Romulans and the Klingons and the humans and everyone's sort of working together,
but like super snipey with each other.
Yeah. Like begrudgingly banding together to defeat the Dominion. It's great.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I think you're thinking of the scene where because the Klingons are basically the front line of that invasion. Like they go in and they get destroyed. I mean, you know, the Jem'Hadar are just driving into their ships. They're just, it's really, really bad. And then I love that they kind of problem solve. You get that really sort of fun moment on the Defiant when they're trying to figure out how to trick. They realize that all of the defense drones are all powered by like this one moon.
Right.
And so they mask this. So O'Brien's like, I have an idea. And Garrick's like, do it. And then they're like, it worked. And it's just a lot of really good moments. But
yeah,
I like where Weyoun is basically there with the Cardassians, and he's like, I picked the wrong side to bring in because you guys suck.
Yep. I loved that moment because like there was a moment way back when he first starts working with Dukat, and it was like it seems like Weyoun might be thinking like, I might have made a mistake.
Yeah.
Now he's like, I made a mistake.
I've made a huge mistake. Just full on Arrested Development, looking out the window, being like, I've made a huge mistake. He's so great.
So funny.
I love it. So going forward, I think you picked up on the fact that Dukat was like possessed. Like, so we've had like the Pa Wraiths, you know, enter, then he's possessed, he comes in, he destroys. To round things out, what do you think is coming next? No pressure.
I mean, I have no idea. He's still on. He was transported off of DS9, so he's not on the ship on there anymore. I mean, I hope he dies. Like, I hope that's coming. I don't know what's
what do you think is gonna, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but what do you think is gonna happen with Dax?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole time I'd been thinking if this happened, Dax would have to, you know, they'd have to find a new Trill host. And then I was like, but that means that person is going to have to go through all the same stuff that Jadzia went through to become a full, like fully symbiotic person, where she, like, you know, they go in the Milky Pool thing and she meets all of the past people. And then she does that thing where she meets them all in other people's bodies. And then I feel like after all those things happened, she was like a full, like she'd done the full transition into her full self. And it kind of seemed like to me like every new Trill with a new symbiont together goes through that.
Because you've watched Discovery too.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So anyway, I was like, are we gonna have to wait for all that to happen before Worf can meet this person again? And are they gonna be in love again? And So I have no idea what's going to happen.
But remember, they also set up in episodes that they technically aren't allowed. Remember? Because the old flame of Jadzia came back and they said...
Forgot about that. I blocked that out. Damn it.
Yeah, that's part of the rules of being Trill. So, yeah.
Oh, so now my whole imagining thing is...
Not to shatter that for you live on air. I'm so sorry.
Oh!
Yeah.
Making fist at Sky.
It's really sad. I mean, I really full on cry. I really full on cry in this episode. I really do. I think the end with... I've watched it, you know, quite a few times, and every single time, I think especially Worf's scene with her at the end is like just rips my heart out. And then oh, partners entered the chat. Hi, Jedi. And then Sisko's speech to Jadzia, like when she's in the coffin, his sort of moment with her talking about the difference between her and Curzon, like
yeah, it's just I just wanted a few more episodes. That's all I wanted. Just a few more.
No. I'm so
Jadzia
sorry.
and Worf. But,
it was only going to make it harder.
I guess that's true.
That
I guess that's true. Now I have an entire season of healing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, final thought, because we're right over the end. Sisko left.
Oh, that's right. God.
Yeah.
See, I was so like wrapped up in Jadzia, I completely forgot. And that last scene is kind of heartbreaking and a little eerie.
Yeah. It ends with him, if people don't remember, it basically ends with him back in New Orleans working at his dad's restaurant, fully shedding everything.
Checked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he took his baseball, and Kira was like, I was afraid of that.
He's not coming back.
I mean, wow. Yeah. So I forgot about that because I was so hung up on Jadzia, but yeah, I don't know what this means.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot. All right. Anyway, we should end it here.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm going to go watch the next 6 right now.
Good. Yeah, exactly, Braston. He took his ball and went home. That's exactly what happened. I mean, that's literally what happened. Thank you all for hanging out in the chat. And thank you to Samantha for allowing yourself to be completely emotionally vulnerable to everyone. Because we've all been just waiting to see what was going to happen.
No worries.
But yeah, we will be back. I think next week is still the plan. Yeah. With the first 6 episodes currently is the plan. I'll have a look at them. But the first 6 episodes of season 7, Samantha's going to go watch them all right now, and then we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to come back. I'll probably be back within the hour to play some Mass Effect. So if people are hanging around, feel free. I will, Umbra, no worries. If anyone missed the beginning of this, you can feel free to check out the VOD. I'll put it on YouTube as well by this evening. So definitely check that out. I'm just gonna see who's up and playing. We can go right. Oh, head over to Rivals of Waterdeep. They're in their 2nd episode of their 10th season, I believe. So let's go check them out. Say hi. Great tabletop RPG. They just good crowd of people. So thank you all for hanging out. Thanks again, Samantha.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you all next time. All right. I'll see you. Bye.